In the grand arena of the alien city, hundreds of warriors from distant worlds gathered to test their strength and skills. The towering stadium, made of shining metal, echoed with the sounds of excited crowds. Colorful flags waved in the breeze, and the energy in the air was electric. The spectators, a mix of various alien species, were here to watch the strongest of the strong face-off in one of the most prestigious trials in the galaxy. Today, a human warrior was among them. The arena's surface gleamed under the sunlight, but it was the soldiers themselves that drew the attention. Each contestant was clad in state-of-the-art armor, crafted from materials far beyond anything Earth could offer. Weapons that looked like something out of a dream were in their hands, swords of light, blasters that could disintegrate stone with a single shot, and shields that could block the deadliest attacks. At first glance, the human soldier did not belong in this competition. He wore a set of rusty, dented armor that looked more like a relic than a battlesuit. Its once shiny metal was covered in scratches and dirt, the remnants of countless battles fought long before he even arrived here. His helmet was cracked and his spear was broken, its once sharp tip now bent and dulled from years of use. When the human stepped into the arena, the audience laughed. They could not believe their eyes. The noise was deafening. Sneers and snickers echoed around the stands. How could someone like him with such outdated gear think he could stand a chance against these mighty warriors? "Is this a joke?" one alien warrior asked, pointing and laughing with his comrades. "He doesn't even have a proper weapon," another alien shouted, his voice dripping with mockery. The human soldier ignored the ridicule. He stood tall, his eyes focused and calm, though inside, he knew how impossible this challenge seemed. He had faced far worse on Earth in the chaos of war, but here, in this alien arena, the stakes were different. The eyes of the galaxy were upon him, and he was here to show that humanity had more to offer than just what met the eye. As he walked to the center of the arena, the alien announcer's voice boomed through the speakers, welcoming the fighters. "And now, from the primitive world of Earth we have, the human," the announcer said, emphasizing the word primitive. The crowd erupted in laughter once, again. The aliens couldn't help but feel superior. They had seen many species from across the stars, but humans? They were weak, struggling in a galaxy filled with power beyond imagination. But the human was unfazed. His name was Jack, a soldier who had spent his life fighting on the front lines. He had no grand armor, no futuristic weapons, but he had something far more powerful: experience. He had fought and survived in conditions that would break most. His armor may have been old and rusted, but it was a testament to the battles he had won. And though his spearhead was broken, it had been the weapon that kept him alive in his toughest moments. Standing across from Jack was his opponent, the alien champion. The alien was a towering figure, at least 8 feet tall, with bulging muscles, and skin that glowed with an unnatural hue. His armor was sleek and shiny, unlike anything Jack had ever seen before. It seemed invincible, designed for nothing but power and intimidation. The alien's weapon was a massive energy sword, humming, with deadly energy, ready to slice through anything in its path. Jack knew that this was no ordinary fight. This wasn't just about strength or size. It was a test of spirit, of willpower, of survival. And Jack wasn't about to back down. The announcer's voice filled the air once more, this time with more excitement. "The first round will begin shortly. Let the battle commence," the announcer cried. Jack tightened his grip on his spear, the only weapon he had. It was not much, but it had served him well enough in the past. He had learned to rely on his skills, not his gear. It was his mind, his heart, and his resolve that would carry him forward, not the shine of his armor or the power of his weapon. Across from him, the alien champion cracked his knuckles and sneered. He was ready for an easy victory. He could see the doubt in the human's eyes, the fear, the weakness. Or so he thought. The crowd's laughter faded, replaced by an almost unbearable tension. The alien champion took the first step forward, his massive footfall sending a tremor through the arena. The human stood his ground, not moving an inch. His breathing was steady, his posture calm. And then, with a sudden roar, the alien charged. Jack didn't flinch. He didn't have time for fear. He had only one chance to prove himself, and he wasn't going to waste it. The alien champion swung his sword with immense force, aiming for Jack's head. It was a deadly strike, one that could cleave a normal man in half. But Jack wasn't normal. He was a soldier who had learned the art of survival. With a swift, practiced movement, Jack ducked under the swing, feeling the air rush past his face. He didn't hesitate. He brought his spear up with all his strength, aiming for the alien's side. But the champion was fast. He twisted his body, parrying the attack with his energy sword. The impact sent Jack stumbling back, but he quickly regained his balance. The crowd roared in excitement, shocked by the human's agility and speed. Jack didn't waste time. He attacked again, using his spear to strike at the champion's exposed leg. It was a glancing blow, but it was enough to make the champion step back, a small hiss of frustration escaping his lips. The crowd fell silent for a moment, confused by the human's resilience. "Is he actually fighting back?" one alien whispered. For the first time, the alien champion looked unsure. He had expected an easy win, but now he was starting to realize that this human was not as weak as he seemed. Jack's mind raced as he assessed his opponent. The alien champion was powerful, no doubt, but he was also overconfident. He had been trained to rely on his strength, his technology. But Jack had something else. He had experience, and he wasn't afraid to use it. As the fight continued, the alien grew more aggressive, swinging his sword with even more force. Jack dodged each strike with precision, waiting for the right moment to strike back. The crowd was starting to grow restless. They had expected the human to fall long ago, but now they were beginning to wonder, could this human really win? Jack smiled to himself. He didn't need to win the battle with strength alone. He just needed to outlast the alien, to survive long enough for the champion to make a mistake. And that's when he saw it. A slight opening in the alien's defense, a brief moment of hesitation. Jack lunged forward with his spear, aiming for the gap in the champion's armor. The alien blocked the attack, but just barely. His sword clashed against Jack's spear, the sound echoing throughout the arena. For a split second, the alien looked at his opponent with new respect. He had never faced anyone like this before. The human was a warrior in his own right. The crowd held its breath. The clash between the two warriors continued, each strike reverberating through the arena. The alien champion was becoming more and more frustrated, his every move filled with rage. He swung his energy sword, the blade crackling with electric power, at the human soldier again. Jack barely managed to duck, feeling the heat of the blade as it passed just inches from his head. The crowd had grown quieter now. The initial mockery had faded, replaced by curiosity. The human soldier was proving himself to be much more than they had expected. He wasn't just some weakling in rusty armor. He was fast, agile, and surprisingly skilled. But still, the alien was a giant of power, his energy sword a deadly weapon, while Jack only had his broken spearhead. Jack's heart pounded as he avoided another swing. He knew he couldn't keep dodging forever. The alien's sheer strength was starting to wear him down, but Jack wasn't one to give up easily. His mind raced, looking for an opening, a weakness, anything he could use to his advantage. The alien champion was relentless, his sword strikes coming faster and faster. Jack could feel the heat from the energy blade as it sliced through the air, and his breath quickened. His armor, though sturdy in its own way, was no match for the alien's weapon. Every blow that came close left deep dents in his suit, and Jack's movements were becoming slower. "Come on, human, is that all you've got?" the alien roared, laughing as he struck again, his sword leaving a trail of sparks in the air. The crowd's mocking jeers had stopped, but the tension in the arena was palpable. They were watching something they hadn't expected. The human wasn't just holding his own, he was surviving. And that in itself was an achievement. But the alien's patience was wearing thin. He was used to overpowering his opponents quickly. This human had already lasted longer than any of the others, but now the champion's confidence turned into anger. Jack stumbled backward as the alien swung his sword in a wide arc. The force behind the strike was enough to send him flying, his back hitting the ground with a loud thud. For a moment he lay there, winded, his head spinning. He had taken some heavy hits, but he wasn't finished yet. The alien stood over him, grinning, his massive figure blocking out the sun. "You thought you could beat me," he sneered. "You're nothing but a weak human in old armor. You don't belong here." Jack's fingers tightened around the broken spearhead. He had faced worse than this before. On Earth, in the war-torn cities, he had seen things that would break most people. But he had survived. He had learned to fight with what he had, not what he wished he had. Slowly, he pushed himself to his feet, his body aching from the fall. His armor was dented and cracked, and the tension in the arena was almost unbearable. The alien champion was still reeling from the unexpected strikes of the human soldier. His massive body was covered in sweat, his breathing heavy. The gleaming armor that had once seemed so impenetrable was now battered, dented, and scarred. His pride had been wounded more than his body, and that was the hardest thing for him to accept. No alien warrior had ever come so close to defeating him before. Jack stood across from him, his own body bruised and bloodied, his armor barely holding together. His right shoulder ached from the alien's last blow, but he refused to let that slow him down. He had come this far and there was no turning back now. This battle wasn't just about winning, it was about proving something. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated. The crowd had gone silent. They were no longer laughing, no longer mocking. They were watching a fight unlike any they had seen before. The human had taken blow after blow, yet he kept coming back. His resilience was inspiring, even to those who had once dismissed him as nothing more than a joke. The alien champion snarled, his anger bubbling over. "You think you can defeat me?" he growled. "You think your tricks and your pathetic armor will be enough to stop me?" Jack's response was simple. He didn't say a word, he just gripped his spear tighter, eyes narrowing. He was done with words. It was time for action. The alien charged again, his energy sword flashing in the sunlight as it sliced through the air. Jack was ready this time. As the sword came down, he sidestepped, the blade missing him by inches. Jack's heart raced, but he was focused, calm. He had practiced for moments like this. In a fluid motion, he swung his broken spearhead at the alien's exposed side. The alien barely had time to react as the spearhead scraped against his armor. Though the damage wasn't severe, it was enough to remind the champion that the human was a threat. It wasn't just the strength of the blow, it was the fact that Jack wasn't giving up. No matter how many times he was knocked down, the alien backed away, his face twisted in frustration. "You're a fool," he spat, clutching his wound. "I'll tear you apart." Jack took a deep breath, keeping his stance steady. He knew the alien was angry, and when an opponent got angry, they made mistakes. Jack just had to survive long enough to exploit those mistakes. The alien rushed at him again, but this time his movements were sloppier, his strikes were heavier but slower. Jack saw the change immediately. The alien had been defeated mentally, even if his body was still strong. The human soldier was wearing him down, forcing him to fight without strategy, just brute force. As the alien swung his sword once more, Jack did something unexpected. Instead of dodging, he leapt toward the alien, ducking under the swing and using his broken spearhead to catch the alien's arm, pulling him off balance. The crowd gasped in surprise. No one had ever seen the human fight like this before. The alien champion stumbled, falling to one knee. For a brief moment, the arena was completely still. Jack's heart pounded, and he could feel the sweat dripping down his face, but his eyes never left the alien. This was the moment he had been waiting for. If he didn't make his move now, the alien would recover and strike again. Jack pushed forward, knocking the alien's sword aside with his spear. He aimed for the alien's chest, but at the last moment, the champion raised his armored arm, deflecting the blow. The sound of metal clashing echoed through the arena, but Jack didn't hesitate. He immediately pivoted, using his momentum to strike at the alien's legs. The spearhead connected with a loud screech as it dug into the joint in the champion's armor. The alien howled in pain, but he didn't give up. He twisted, throwing Jack back with a powerful shove, sending him tumbling to the ground. The crowd was on the edge of their seats. This wasn't just a battle of strength anymore, it was a battle of wills. And the question on everyone's mind, was clear. Could the human continue to survive? Jack pushed himself to his feet, coughing as he struggled to breathe. His body was sore, his muscles aching, but there was no turning back. He couldn't afford to think about the pain now. He had one goal: to win. The alien champion stood up slowly, glaring at Jack. His confidence was shaken, but his pride still burned brightly. "I will crush you," he growled, his voice low and filled with menace. But Jack wasn't listening. His mind was focused. He didn't have time to waste on words. The alien sword came down again, but this time Jack was ready. As the blade descended, Jack sidestepped and rolled to the side, using his spearhead to jab at the alien's exposed flank. The alien staggered back, his movements slowing. Jack could see it now. His opponent was tiring. The champion's movements were becoming more predictable, less precise. Jack had pushed him to his limit. The human soldier took a deep breath, his eyes scanning the alien's armor. There. A small crack near the shoulder plate. It was the weak spot, the one Jack had been waiting for. With a yell, Jack charged forward, his spear raised high. He aimed straight for the crack, using all his strength to drive the broken spearhead into the alien's armor. The sound of metal scraping against metal was deafening. The alien screamed, his body jerking back as the spearhead cut through the weakened spot. For a moment, the alien champion stood frozen, his mouth open in shock. He had never imagined a human could do this. The pride and arrogance that had fueled his every move seemed to drain out of him in that instant. Jack took a step back, breathing heavily. His arms were sore, his vision blurred from the intensity of the fight. But he had done it. The alien was hurt. Not just physically, but mentally. He was no longer the unbeatable champion. The crowd, once filled with mocking laughter, was now silent. They couldn't believe their eyes. The human had done it. He had struck at the heart of the alien's pride, and now the champion was faltering. The alien dropped to one knee, gasping for breath. His sword fell from his hand, clattering to the ground. Jack stood there watching him, his broken spearhead still in hand. He wasn't celebrating. He wasn't gloating. He was just waiting. The alien lifted his head, meeting Jack's eyes. There was no more mockery in his gaze. Only recognition. You actually did it," the alien whispered, his voice shaking with disbelief. Jack didn't respond. He didn't need to. The battle wasn't over yet, but the first real victory had been won. He had proved that strength didn't come from shiny armor or advanced weapons. It came from determination, from the will to keep fighting no matter how impossible the odds seemed. And as the alien fell to the ground, defeated, but not broken, Jack knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning. The alien champion's body trembled as he struggled to rise. His glowing skin, once so proud and bright, now appeared dulled and damaged. Blood, bright green and slick, poured from the crack in his armor where the human spearhead had struck. He gripped his chest in pain, his breath shallow and ragged, as if the realization of what had happened had only now begun to sink in. Jack stood several feet away, watching, his own body still aching from the brutal battle. His chest rose and fell with each breath, his shoulder throbbing where the alien sword had grazed him. He could feel the weight of the fight pressing down on him, but he knew there was no turning back. The alien had been wounded, both physically and mentally, but he was not defeated yet. The crowd, once so loud and full of laughter, was now eerily quiet. They watched, mesmerized, as the human soldier stood in front of the alien champion, weapon raised, waiting for the next move. No one could have predicted this. The human, this primitive being from Earth, had managed to push the alien to his limits. It was as if the rules of the fight had changed entirely. What was once thought to be a one-sided contest had now become a battle of endurance, willpower, and pride. The alien champion slowly pushed himself to his feet, his knees shaking. He looked up at Jack, his eyes filled with a mixture of rage and disbelief. You're stronger than I thought," he hissed, his voice hoarse. "But you are still nothing. You still don't belong here." Jack didn't flinch. His grip on his spear tightened, but his gaze never wavered. He had heard similar words before, people who doubted him, who thought he was too weak, too small. But now, in this arena, in front of these alien spectators, he had proven something far more important. He had shown them that humanity could stand toe-to-toe with the greatest warriors in the galaxy. The alien took a step forward, his massive feet shaking the ground beneath him. He raised his hand, calling forth the energy sword that had been his weapon of choice. It hummed with deadly power, the blade glowing brighter than before. The champion's pride had been wounded, but now he was driven by something else. Desperation. He couldn't lose to a human. Not after all the taunting and mockery he had endured from his fellow aliens. He couldn't let this human be the one to prove that they were wrong. You want to prove something? The alien spat. Then prove it. Show me what you can really do. The alien charged once more, his energy sword crackling with power. His movements were faster now, fueled by a burning anger that seemed to give him strength. Jack had seen this before, an opponent fighting not for victory, but out of desperation, and that was dangerous. A desperate fighter was often unpredictable, and Jack knew he had to be ready for anything. As the alien swung his sword down, Jack dove to the side, narrowly avoiding the blade. The heat from the energy sword scorched the arena was filled with a deafening silence, as if the entire galaxy was holding its breath. Jack stood victorious, his broken spearhead still in his hands. The alien champion, once so full of arrogance, now lay defeated on the ground, his body bruised and bloodied. His energy sword lay discarded beside him, its glow faded. The pride that had once filled the alien's massive form was now replaced by disbelief and acceptance of his defeat. The audience, who had laughed and mocked Jack at the beginning of the fight, was now stunned into quiet awe. The roar of the crowd had died down, but a sense of reverence lingered in the air. Jack had done what no one had thought possible. He had defeated the mighty alien champion using nothing but his wits, resilience, and sheer determination. Jack stood still, his chest heaving with each breath. His body was battered, his armor barely holding together, but his spirit had never been stronger. The pain from his wounds seemed distant now, almost irrelevant. He had proven himself, not just to the aliens, but to himself. For a moment, everything was still. Then, the alien champion stirred. Jack's eyes locked onto the fallen warrior. The alien's breathing was shallow, but he wasn't finished yet. Despite the wound that had nearly brought him to the brink of death, there was something in the alien's eyes, something that refused to accept defeat. With a groan, the alien champion slowly pushed himself to his feet, leaning on his hands for support. His movements were slower now, his strength nearly gone. But there was still something dangerous in the way he looked at Jack. You should have stayed down, the alien whispered, his voice barely audible, filled with a mix of pain and pride. You don't know what you've done. Jack's grip on the spear tightened. He had no intention of fighting again. The battle had been won. He had proved what he came to prove. But something in the alien's words struck him. The battle wasn't just about strength or survival. There was something deeper at play here. You fought well, Jack said, his voice steady. But it's over. You've lost. The alien let out a harsh laugh, a bitter, painful sound. Lost? Perhaps, but the galaxy will never forget this day, human. You've made an enemy of more than just me. Jack's eyes narrowed, sensing the alien's underlying threat. The champion was right about one thing. The fight wasn't just about the two of them. It had become something bigger, something the entire galaxy was watching. The stakes were higher now, and Jack understood the weight of what he had done. He had not just defeated a warrior, he had challenged a belief, a system, an entire culture that saw humans as weak. As Jack stood there, his mind racing, the announcer's voice suddenly rang out across the arena, shattering the silence. And there you have it, folks. The impossible has happened. The human, the underdog, has defeated the reigning champion in an unforgettable battle. But the fight, it seems, may not be over yet. The crowd erupted into a mix of cheers and confusion. It wasn't clear whether they were cheering for Jack's victory or the chaos that was brewing. Jack's mind was still focused on the alien who was now slowly staggering toward him, blood dripping from his wounds. Jack raised his spear, not to strike, but to hold the champion at a distance. He had already proven his point. He had nothing left to prove, but the alien was still coming. "Leave it," Jack said firmly, his voice carrying across the arena. "You've lost." For a moment, the alien hesitated. Then, with a final grunt, he collapsed onto one knee, his massive body trembling. I have lost," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. The once proud champion, who had mocked Jack and thought of him as little more than a joke, now acknowledged the truth. He had been bested by a human. The crowd's roar reached a new height, but Jack remained silent, his gaze fixed on the alien. It was clear that something had shifted, not just in the arena, but across the galaxy. The victory of one human soldier had rippled out to affect something much larger. No longer were humans seen as weak. No longer were they beneath the notice of the galaxy's greatest warriors. Jack lowered his spear, his body still aching from the battle. He didn't need to strike again. He didn't need to do anything else. The champion had admitted defeat, and that was all that mattered. But then, something unexpected happened. The alien reached out with a trembling hand, grabbing Jack's wrist. His grip was weak, but there was a strange look in his eyes, a mix of admiration and respect. "You're different," the alien murmured, his voice filled with disbelief. "I thought you would be like the others, weak, helpless. But you fight differently. You fight with heart." Jack glanced down at the alien's hand, then back into his eyes. For a moment, he saw the same warrior spirit in the alien that he had seen in himself, the same determination to survive, the same pride in battle. Despite their differences, despite the fact that they were enemies, they were not so different after all. "I fight to survive," Jack said simply, his voice calm. "I fight because I have to." The alien smiled faintly, the corners of his lips twitching. "You've earned my respect, human, and for that, I'll make sure you are remembered for as long as I live." With that, the alien released Jack's wrist and slowly stood up. He seemed to gather what little strength he had left, and for the first time, Jack saw something resembling gratitude in his eyes. "May your victory echo through the stars," the alien said quietly. Before turning away and leaving the arena, Jack watched him go, his thoughts a whirlwind. This battle, this fight, had not just been about proving humanity's strength. It had been about something much deeper. The galaxy was not just a place of power and technology. It was a place of survival, of spirit. Jack had come here to show that even a human in old rusted armor could stand against the mightiest of warriors. And now, that message had been heard. The crowd's cheers grew louder, and Jack turned to face them. They weren't mocking him anymore. They weren't laughing at him. They were cheering, celebrating the impossible. They were cheering for him, one human soldier against all odds. The announcer's voice rang out once more, but this time it was full of awe and respect. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have witnessed history today. A human has defeated our champion. The impossible has become reality. Let us all remember this day as the day humanity proved that it is no longer a species to be underestimated." Jack's heart raced as the crowd's applause echoed through the arena. It wasn't just for the fight, it wasn't just for the victory. It was for something much larger, the beginning of a new understanding, a new respect. And for the first time, Jack realized that he hadn't just fought for himself, he had fought for all of humanity. The arena buzzed with excitement, but Jack was silent, watching the alien champion leave. His body was broken, his armor dented and scarred, but his spirit had never been stronger. The fight was over, but the impact of his victory would be felt for a long time to come. The arena was filled with noise, the sound of cheering, clapping, and the rush of excitement filling the air. Jack stood motionless in the center of it all, his spear still clutched tightly in his hand. His eyes scanned the crowd, but it felt surreal. The roar of the aliens, once filled with mocking laughter, was now an overwhelming wave of respect. They had witnessed something extraordinary. A human, an outsider, had done the impossible. The alien champion, who had been at the top of the arena's hierarchy, had fallen, and in his place stood Jack, a soldier from Earth, with only a rusted suit of armor and a broken spearhead to defend himself. Yet somehow, against all odds, he had emerged victorious. Jack's body ached from the battle. His left shoulder throbbed with every movement, the cuts and bruises from the alien's sword attack still stinging. His armor was battered beyond recognition, scratches, dents and deep marks where the champion's strikes had almost brought him to the ground. Yet, in this moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was that he had won, and not just for himself, but for humanity. He had shown that human strength wasn't measured by the shine of armor or the power of weapons, but by resilience, heart, and the will to survive. The announcer's voice boomed through the arena, echoing in the stunned silence that had fallen over the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, we have witnessed an event that will be remembered throughout the stars. The human, the underdog, has defeated the champion. This victory will echo across the galaxies. It is the day humanity proved its strength and earned a place among us. The words felt unreal to Jack, but as the crowd's applause grew louder, it became clear that this wasn't a dream. This was real. He had done it. He had made history. But even as the applause continued, Jack's thoughts were not on the crowd, the victory, or the aliens around him. They were on Earth. He thought of his home, the battlefields, the struggles, the pain of losing so much. He thought of the people who never had a chance to show what they could do, the ones who never got to fight. Jack had fought for them. For everyone who couldn't be here to prove their worth. The alien guards, who had once stood at attention, now looked at Jack with something new: respect. These were beings that had seen the most terrifying warriors across the universe, but they had never seen anything like this before. A human soldier, standing in the heart of their grand arena, had just defeated one of their most powerful champions. The crowd continued to cheer. A figure walked onto the arena floor, moving toward Jack. It was one of the alien rulers, a being whose form shimmered with an ethereal glow.